Welcome to the Quest Forums channel. If you've been watching my videos for a while, then you're probably aware of the series that I'm doing about the planting of the Potter's Church, and the fact that one of the issues I've been dealing with is the question of whether and when to go for tax-exempt status. Now, along with my research as far as my specific situation goes, I've also run into a few times a bigger picture issue. So right now, there are a growing number of people on the secular left who are arguing for the elimination of tax exemption for churches altogether. And they always couch it in terms of fairness. They say that it is not right, that it's not just, that churches are able to escape the taxation that everybody else has to pay. But if you listen to them for about more than 5 seconds, you realize it's really not what they're interested in. Actually, their problem is with what churches preach. And they don't like the fact that we disagree with them and that we say things that go against the ethic that they are trying to instill in society. And they want to be able to silence us. And they see taxing us as a useful way to be able to do so. Now, that, of course, is the main reason why we should argue for tax exemption, because it's about religious liberty, and it's about our right to be able to continue to preach the things that we believe. But if you are dealing with somebody who already despises Christianity, religious liberty is probably not going to have that much of an effect on them. So it's important to have a few more practical arguments as well, because they might ultimately be more persuasive. And so the first one has to do with the effects of the church. Because Christianity teaches people to behave morally, teaches them to not murder and steal and to commit perjury, to obey the laws and listen to the government. It teaches them to have a good work ethic and to just in general be joyful and hopeful. And these are all benefits to society. These are all things that go to the formation of good citizens. Well, the government has an interest in institutions that forge good citizens. And in a lot of societies, the government actually directly supports churches and other religious institutions and pays for them. That's why a lot of nations in Europe still have established churches. Now, in our country, the First Amendment says that you cannot have an established religion. So the tax exemption is a way to indirectly support churches by saying we appreciate the work that you're doing and for making people who are well adjusted for our society. And so we are not going to burden you with taxation. Now, along with that just goes the nature of the burden. A lot of churches, most of them, as a matter of fact, work on a pretty major razor-thin margin. And as a result, if they were to be taxed in addition to everything else that they have to pay right now, they probably would not be able to operate, which of course is the motivation for wanting to remove tax exemption. But the reason why tax exemption exists is to be able to make it so that they can operate recognizing the economics of a church. Because churches are like government in a sense that they do not create wealth. They do not make investments, a return on investments to anyone. And government doesn't either. Government doesn't create wealth. It takes wealth from other people and then it redistributes it to its own causes, which it has to be able to do to some extent. And churches do the same thing. They take wealth from others. In the case of churches, it's voluntarily, but they take wealth from others and then they put it towards non-economic ends. They put it towards spiritual ends instead. And since there is no wealth being produced, there's really nothing to tax. If you tax them, you're double dipping. You're requesting taxes back for something that has already been taxed, the original wealth that was donated to them. And that's not something the government should be doing. Incidentally, that is why the estate tax is morally wrong as well. But churches need the tax exemption in order to be able to operate because there is no investment. There's no money going out of them as a return to anyone. And so they need the tax exemption, and there need to be tax deductions in order to be an encouragement towards charitable giving. That should not be the only reason that people give, obviously, but it is an incentive, and it's a necessary one, and churches cannot operate without it, at least by and large. And the most important issue involved in all of this, though, the examples that I'm giving, is the fact that they don't apply to churches alone. This is not just about Christianity. This is about any nonprofit tax-exempt organization, including those that are secular left. And so when people are arguing for the elimination of tax exemption, they're really arguing to hurt their own friends. It just shows their level of disdain for Christianity. That's how far they're willing to go. And it proves that they're making an emotional argument, not a rational argument. Everybody that's doing this type of work can argue for the good that they're providing for society and the necessity of the exemptions to actually be able to operate. And since everybody can, it should be available to everybody. To take it away to punish one group at the expense of all others really just shows how far gone they are. And it's important for us to be able to recognize that and to be able to argue for the necessity of this, because you never do know. It is, like I said, it's something that's growing in our society. There's a number of people who think that this is a good argument to make. So we need to be equipped to tell them, no, it's really not. So if you appreciate that information, I would really appreciate it if you'd leave a like for this video by hitting the thumbs up button below. It helps the channel out and reaches new people. If you have anything that you want to add to the discussion here, or a question, and it doesn't have to be a question just about this, it can be anything in the Bible, feel free to put that in the comments below. Thanks very much for checking out this video, and until next time, keep looking up.